One Japanese word can change the way you see every drawer, shelf, fridge, closet, and shopping bag in your home, and that word is Mottainai. Mottainai is often translated as what a waste or do not be wasteful, but the Japanese feeling inside the word is deeper than that. In Japanese use, Mottainai is not only a cleaning rule or a storage trick, because Mottainai carries regret that value was not honored. That is why Mottainai can hit harder than ordinary decluttering advice, because Mottainai says waste is disrespectful, not merely messy or inefficient. When people hear Mottainai for the first time, they often think it means save everything, but the full Japanese idea is more careful. Mottainai asks whether an object, a resource, or even a moment received the full use and respect that its value deserved. That small shift changes home clutter fast, because clutter stops looking like a shelf problem and starts looking like a relationship problem. The Japanese word itself helps explain that feeling, because the older part Mottainai points toward a thing's proper worth, dignity, or intrinsic value. Then the added part nai means lack or absence, so Mottainai carries the sense that something precious is being diminished or squandered. That etymology matters because Mottainai is not just about money, and it is not only about neat rooms with fewer objects. Mottainai says a shirt, a tool, a meal, a notebook, and a container all hold material worth that should not be dishonored. That is why Mottainai can stop clutter before clutter starts, because Mottainai questions buying, neglect, and thoughtless waste much earlier. A bin system can organize a crowded house, but Mottainai asks why so many forgotten things were bought in the first place. Many modern decluttering systems focus on labels, baskets, shelves, and sorting, while Mottainai starts with the moral meaning of ownership itself. Mottainai asks why a person bought an item that would sit buried in a drawer instead of being used, repaired, shared, or released. That question can feel uncomfortable, because Mottainai points to the labor, materials, money, and nature hidden inside every object in a home. When Mottainai becomes a daily habit, clutter starts to look like broken attention because neglected things show that value was not truly noticed. That is one reason the word feels so strong in Japanese culture, because it joins tidiness to gratitude and respect. The idea is often described as Buddhist in origin, and that description is broadly fair because Buddhist teaching values mindfulness, impermanence, and frugality. Buddhist ideas about interdependence also fit Mottainai well, because objects come from many linked parts of the world, not from nowhere. At the same time, scholars also point to Shinto sensibilities in Japan, especially the sense that nature and crafted things carry presence or dignity. That Shinto side matters, because Mottainai does not treat the world as dead material that exists only for quick disposal. In practice, Mottainai belongs to the layered Japanese mix of Buddhist and Shinto feeling more than to one clean doctrinal box. That mixed background gives Mottainai a quiet spiritual weight, even when someone uses the word at home over food, cloth, or paper. So when a grandmother in Japan says Mottainai over leftovers or wasted water, she may be carrying centuries of moral feeling. That is why Mottainai sounds stronger than a simple command, like clean your room or stop wasting food. Mottainai carries sorrow that value was lost, and that sorrow can be powerful enough to reshape everyday habits inside a family. In modern consumer culture, clutter is often treated like a math problem of too many things and too little storage space. Mottainai reframes the same clutter as a behavior problem involving careless buying, careless keeping, and careless wasting. A crowded closet under Mottainai does not only say there are too many shirts. A crowded closet under Mottainai says the shirts were not chosen carefully, not worn fully, or not passed on responsibly. A fridge full of spoiled food under Mottainai does not only say meal planning failed. A spoiled fridge under Mottainai says ingredients, water, labor, land, money, and time were all disrespected. That emotional layer is why Mottainai can work better than plain productivity advice for some people. A rule can tell you to sort socks, but Mottainai can make you hesitate before buying 5 more pairs you do not need. Mottainai therefore reaches into shopping behavior, storage behavior, repair behavior, and even the way a family plans meals. If a person truly feels Mottainai, impulse buying becomes harder because the future waste is visible before the purchase even happens. That is a very different kind of decluttering power from a weekend cleaning sprint with boxes and labels. One of the clearest modern voices behind Mottainai was Wangari Maathai, the Kenyan environmental activist who encountered the word in Japan in 2005. Wangari Maathai loved Mottainai because she saw in that one Japanese word a whole environmental ethic that could travel across the world. She explained Mottainai through the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and respect, and that last word is the key addition. Many environmental slogans stop at reduce, reuse, and recycle, but Wangari Maathai said Mottainai also requires respect for what is being used. That word respect changes the feeling completely, because Mottainai is not only a checklist for waste management. Mottainai tells people how to feel about food, fabric, water, paper, containers, and tools that enter daily life. Reduce under Mottainai means buying fewer things before the home gets crowded, not only throwing less away after the damage is done. Reuse under Mottainai means using containers again, repurposing objects thoughtfully, and letting items continue their purpose instead of dying in storage. Recycle under Mottainai still matters, but Mottainai pushes earlier than recycling by asking why waste was created at all. Respect under Mottainai means remembering the value inside a thing before it becomes trash, and that memory changes the whole home. This is why Mottainai can be such a strong answer to home clutter, especially in a world full of quick online shopping and easy replacement. A person guided by Mottainai buys fewer but better things, because poor quality items often turn into fast waste and fast clutter. A person guided by Mottainai also finishes food more carefully, because spoiled leftovers feel like a moral loss, not a small kitchen mistake. Clothing changes too under Mottainai, because a torn shirt becomes something to mend first, not something to discard at first damage. Containers change too, because Mottainai sees repeated use as honorable when the container still serves a practical purpose in the house. Mottainai also challenges the excitement of impulse buying, because a moment of shopping pleasure can lead to months of neglected clutter. That is why Mottainai is practical, even though it sounds philosophical, because it changes decisions at the exact point where clutter begins. Japanese culture offers many nearby examples that fit this anti-waste feeling, even if each example is not identical to Mottainai itself. Traditional mending and patchwork practices, including the aesthetic linked with Boro textiles, reflect the older logic of long material life. Boro textiles show cloth used, repaired, layered, and kept in service rather than quickly discarded for something newer. That Boro logic sits very comfortably beside Mottainai, because both honor material value by extending use across time. Japanese wrapping cloths also fit the same spirit, because reusable cloth can replace casual single-use waste in everyday carrying and gifting. Careful lunch packing offers another example, because the food is portioned and handled with attention rather than treated carelessly. Seasonal eating fits too, because seasonal food respects timing, availability, and the natural world that produced the meal. Respectful handling of tools also lives close to Mottainai, because a well-kept tool is an object allowed to fulfill its purpose. Even rituals of gratitude before and after meals support Mottainai, because gratitude makes food feel less disposable and more worthy of care. This is one reason Mottainai reaches beyond closets and drawers into kitchens, school bags, sewing boxes, and family routines. Children in Japan have also been taught Mottainai through stories and education, not only through adult minimalism or design culture. Some teaching materials use grandmother figures and household examples to show children why wasting food, water, stationery, or toys is wrong. That intergenerational teaching matters because Mottainai is not only a private style choice for adults who like tidy rooms. Mottainai is a social ethic that older people often pass down, especially people shaped by post-war scarcity and more frugal household life. A child who hears Mottainai over a half-used notebook learns something bigger than handwriting habits. That child is learning that paper carries value, labor, trees, money, and space, so careless waste is a form of disrespect. A child who hears Mottainai over running water learns that water is not an endless background convenience. A child who hears Mottainai over uneaten rice learns that food is not only a product on a shelf. These repeated small lessons can shape how an adult later shops, cooks, stores, and declutters a home. Mottainai also has a folklore side that makes the lesson even more memorable in Japanese imagination. Commentators sometimes connect Mottainai to tsukumogami, the tradition in which old household objects may gain spirit or presence after long use. Whether a person takes tsukumogami literally or symbolically, the story still teaches respect for tools and objects that serve people faithfully. A broom, a needle, a kettle, or a chest inside this folklore world is not mere dead junk with no history. Tsukumogami turns long-used objects into reminders that careless treatment reveals something careless in the person using them. That folklore connection gives Mottainai an almost storybook force, especially when teaching children how to treat belongings well. The message becomes simple and vivid. Old objects that served you deserve more than neglect or thoughtless disposal. At the same time, a careful view of Japan should avoid pretending that all Japanese life perfectly follows Mottainai. Japan is also known for heavy packaging, convenience culture, and modern forms of consumer waste. That fact is important because Mottainai is best understood as an ideal people aim toward, not a perfect record of national behavior. Its power partly comes from being aspirational because Mottainai names a standard that people can fail and then return to. That makes the word useful in any country, because no home, Japanese or otherwise, lives without waste all the time. The goal of Mottainai is not perfection, but sharper attention to value and less careless loss. This is where home clutter becomes especially interesting, because Mottainai seems to pull in two opposite directions at first. On one side, Mottainai makes a person pause before buying unnecessary things, so clutter enters the home more slowly. On the other side, Mottainai can also help a person let go of unused things, which surprises people who think anti-waste means keep everything. An object buried in a drawer for years is not being respected under Mottainai any more than an object tossed away thoughtlessly. That is one of the most useful lessons for decluttering, because guilt often makes people keep items they never use. Mottainai answers that guilt by saying real respect means use, repair, share, or release responsibly, not endless hiding and hoarding. So the mature Mottainai response is not save every object forever. The mature Mottainai response is make sure every object fulfills a purpose instead of becoming silent waste in a closet. That is why Mottainai can help both people who overbuy and people who overkeep. For the overbuyer, Mottainai asks whether the purchase honors the object's value before it even comes home. For the overkeeper, Mottainai asks whether dead storage is really respect or simply a different kind of waste. In practical home life, Mottainai can begin with shopping, because most clutter starts at the point of acquisition. Before buying a new kitchen tool, a person can ask whether an existing tool already does the same job. Before buying another storage box, a person can ask whether the real problem is too many things, not too few containers. Before buying more clothes, a person can ask whether the older clothes could be mended, layered, or worn more fully. Before buying more food, a person can ask what is already sitting in the fridge or pantry waiting to spoil. These questions are practical, but each one carries the deeper Mottainai feeling that value should not be wasted. Mottainai also changes the way a person sees damaged things. A torn cloth under Mottainai may suggest repair before replacement, echoing the long life spirit seen in Boro textile traditions. A half-used notebook under Mottainai may suggest finishing the remaining pages instead of opening a fresh one. A jar under Mottainai may suggest repeated use instead of instant disposal after one original purpose ends. A leftover meal under Mottainai may suggest planning tomorrow's lunch before the food loses its chance to be eaten. These are small domestic acts, but small acts are exactly where clutter and waste usually grow. Mottainai is useful because it brings ethics into those ordinary moments before the damage becomes large. The word is also powerful because English usually needs a full sentence to express what Mottainai holds inside one short term. English can say do not waste, appreciate resources, honor labor, buy less, repair more, and feel gratitude for objects. Mottainai carries all of those ideas together in one compact moral signal. That density is part of why the word is so memorable and so useful during daily decisions. A single word can flash in the mind when food is scraped into a bin, when a shirt is ignored, or when a sale tempts overbuying. In that moment, Mottainai works like a small inner alarm tied to value and respect. For clutter specifically, Mottainai changes what the eye notices in a room. A packed shelf stops looking like normal background stuff and starts looking like stalled purpose. A drawer full of duplicate stationery stops looking harmless and starts looking like paper that never got the respect of being used. A pile of untouched gifts stops looking sentimental and starts looking like stored value waiting for a better home. A freezer full of old food stops looking convenient and starts looking like delayed waste. That mental shift is often more powerful than a strict cleaning schedule because it changes desire itself. If desire changes, buying changes, and if buying changes, clutter can shrink before the next cleanup even begins. Mottainai also helps explain why some decluttering efforts fail after only a few weeks. If a person sorts the house but keeps the same careless shopping habits, the same clutter returns. If a person organizes leftovers but keeps overbuying groceries, the same waste appears in the fridge again. If a person folds clothes beautifully but keeps chasing cheap impulse purchases, the closet fills again. Mottainai reaches behind those repeating cycles by targeting the mindset that created them. That is why the word can feel stronger than 6 generic decluttering tips copied from a magazine. Mottainai is not a hack for one weekend. Mottainai is a worldview about ownership, use, and respect. The worldview becomes even clearer when we remember Wangari Maathai's 4 Rs plus respect. Reduce addresses the front door of the house by lowering what comes in. Reuse keeps objects alive longer once they are already inside. Recycle deals with what truly reaches the end of use. Respect surrounds all three and gives them moral meaning rather than treating them as cold systems. Without respect, reduce, reuse, and recycle can become technical chores that people forget when life gets busy. With respect, those same acts feel connected to the value carried by food, cloth, wood, water, paper, and tools. That is exactly why Mottainai can be applied to a cluttered home without becoming a harsh or joyless rule. Mottainai does not say live with nothing and touch nothing. Mottainai says let each thing earn its place through real use, careful care, or thoughtful passing on. This also means letting go can be a form of respect when an object is not serving anyone in your home. If a useful item sits buried and unused, sharing it or releasing it responsibly may honor it better than long storage. That idea frees people from the fear that decluttering itself is anti-Mottainai. Thoughtless throwing away breaks Mottainai, but thoughtful rehoming can fulfill Mottainai by restoring the object's purpose. This balance is one of the most beautiful parts of the Japanese idea. Mottainai asks for discipline, but Mottainai also asks for honesty about what your home is actually doing with its possessions. A home full of forgotten goods is not automatically respectful just because nothing was thrown away. A home guided by Mottainai would rather see an object used well than hidden forever under a bed. That lesson can transform closets, toy bins, sewing drawers, linen shelves, and kitchen cabinets. It can also transform family speech, because the word itself gives everyone one shared language for value. A parent can say Mottainai over wasted crayons, over extra rice, or over a broken tool left unrepaired. A child can learn from that one word that things do not appear from nowhere and should not vanish carelessly either. Adults can use the same word to slow down before a bulk purchase, a trendy gadget, or a duplicate household item. Even in modern homes far from Japan, Mottainai can still work because the human habits behind clutter are widely shared. People everywhere buy too much, forget what they own, let food spoil, and replace things before their life is truly over. Mottainai names all of that waste with unusual clarity and emotional force. It also adds gratitude, which is why the word feels calmer and deeper than simple anti-clutter scolding. Gratitude for food reduces waste at the table. Gratitude for fabric encourages repair in the closet. Gratitude for tools encourages care in the workshop or kitchen. Gratitude for paper encourages fuller use at school, at work, or at home. When gratitude and respect become ordinary habits, clutter starts to lose its grip because careless ownership starts to lose its appeal. That is the deeper promise inside Mottainai. Mottainai will not create a perfect minimalist house overnight, and the Japanese tradition itself never promises such instant transformation. What Mottainai offers is something stronger than a quick trick. Mottainai offers a philosophy strong enough to reshape consumption, and reshaped consumption changes the home from the roots. Once a person truly feels that every object carries resources extracted, labor spent, money earned, space occupied, and time at risk of waste, clutter becomes harder to tolerate. That is why Mottainai can stop you from cluttering your home again, not because it adds better bins, but because it changes conscience. The word makes overbuying feel foolish, underusing feel careless, and thoughtless disposal feel disrespectful. At the same time, the word makes repair feel honorable, sharing feel wise, and responsible release feel clean. That full balance is what gives Mottainai lasting power across kitchens, wardrobes, notebooks, lunchboxes, and family life. If this Japanese idea stayed with you, watch our next video on another everyday habit from Japan that turns small daily choices into a calmer home.